Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today we have this big 15-inch IBM ThinkPad beast on the table. And I just want to shout out to Justin for sending this my way. It's been a long time coming. It was in a batch of other machines, some of which have been featured on the channel already, but it was now this thing's time to shine. So before we even open this thing up and I tell you that it's the ThinkPad A31, there are some things on the outside that kind of draw our attention and have stories behind them that I have captured on this channel for your viewing and listening pleasure. So if you want to know, for example, why the corner of this machine is cut off like this and not squared like this, then I will leave a video over here where you can hear that story directly from David Hill. The other thing that's worth pointing out is that this is a dual latch ThinkPad. Now, when they created the dual latch, there was some accessibility issues that they wanted to conquer. And how they did that was they actually created probably what we would consider now to be a very over-engineered locking system. So if I turn it this way and put us on this camera here, I will open the first latch and you will notice that this actually stays in the open position. I'll do the same for the second, and again it stays in the opened position. And then if this was brand spanking new, I'd be able to lift the lid with one hand, but it is old, so I need to give it some help. But click, and then the whole thing opens and reveals the inside to us, this beautifully huge and well-equipped ThinkPad A31. Now, there's more to talk about with this A31 specifically, but we'll get to that in just a second. This was the successor to the 300 series. It was designed to be a desktop replacement, which is why it's so big, why it's got a few more consumer buttons over here than we would normally expect to see on a ThinkPad. And when the A31 was released, it would be the last of the A series, and it would be replaced by the R and the G series. But those are topics for another video, another day. This was released in March of 2002 and was manufactured until January of 2004. There was also an A31P edition, which was the performance model that had a better GPU and CPU by default. Now, this one being the standard model is still no slouch, and it came in essentially two sizes, a 14-inch or a 15-inch, at least when it comes to the screen. The 14.1-inch was a TFT 1024 by 768 panel. Then there was a 15-inch 1024 by 768, which this is. And then there is a less common 1400 by 1050 panel. CPUs were all Intel Pentium 4M, and it was 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2 gigahertz CPUs. This happens to be the 1.9, so just above the middle of the road there. RAM was a maximum of 2 gigabytes. We laugh about that now, which was PC 2100 DDR, and there were some units that shipped with PC 2700. GPUs in this were ATI Mobility Radeon 7500 and either a 16 or 32 megabyte card. The hard drives in this thing, because the A series was considered a 3-spindle machine, and if you want to know the history behind that, you can talk to the product manager of this device, Rob Herman, and I did so over here, so you can click on that link to hear that interview as well. But what 3 spindles meant is that there was a CD drive, there was a floppy drive, and then there was the hard disk drive. All of those had spinning media, so it was a 3-platter or a 3-spinner system. So let's just do a quick tour of the ports and features of this machine. This one does not have any sort of webcam. We're not quite there yet, although they were thinking about it because that's where this port on the top of the machine, the Ultra port, would kind of come in with different modules. One of them was a web camera. We do have a Think light at the top of the display. We have this really unique keyboard with all of these media buttons, which by and large would be eliminated rather quickly after only a few generations of different ThinkPads. We have a track point. We have no trackpad, dedicated buttons. We do have the scroll button that was introduced on the Transnote, trying to solve a problem there because that machine didn't have a chin, if you will. to put it on. If we close this machine, we can see we got a lot of ports and features. So on the right-hand side here, we have a fair bit going on with one of the drive bays. Now this one is currently unoccupied. I'll just give you a better view there. And if we pull that out, we can see that this is a blank. However, this caddy, of course, invites itself for all sorts of storage shenanigans, because it is pretty deep. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. What would you put in the storage tray? Now, the other things that would go in this storage tray would be any Ultra Bay 2... Now, I need to get this right. It's Ultra Bay Plus on this side, and then Ultra Bay 2000 on the other side. So the bays aren't identical, and the accessories that came in them aren't identical. So you could get like CD, DVD, ROM drives, you get a floppy drive, you could get the exceptionally rare numpad attachment, those sorts of things. You've got some card bus slots in here for expansion. Along the back, we have serial. We've got two different punch outs here. One of them, I believe, is for S-Video. 56K modem, Ethernet port, VGA printer port, two USB ports. I believe they're like 1.1. I don't think we're quite up to 2 yet. And then we've got our power plug right there. And then over on this side, we have all of our audio jacks. So headphone, microphone, and input, or pardon me, output. And then we have another Ultra Bay, and I believe we even have a punch out here for the infrared blaster if it was equipped. And then of course a Kensington lock slot in that corner. Now if we turn this device over, and I'll put it underneath our document camera here, we can get a bit of an indicator of upgradability and other fun facts. This is obviously where the battery would go. Regrettably, it had to be removed for shipping purposes. They only allowed us so many batteries in that box, and we were definitely getting on the limit. So under this access tray, we have our two RAM slots. Pretty standard stuff. So 512 megabytes up here, and then this one down here is 256. So one of those weird 768 combos. And then over here under this panel is access to our CMOS battery. We have what I believe to be modems and Ethernet cards. This big bad boy here is currently unoccupied. And then over here is going to be our hard disk drive. This screw is not captive. And then we pull out the caddy. 60 gigabyte Hitachi drive. Now this one says 7200 RPM, but it definitely has IBM stickers all over it. So this might have been an upgrade part. This also says a Lenovo part number as well. And given the data manufacturer of this machine, this leads me to believe that this is actually from a completely different system. Because this is manufactured by IBM, so this isn't even a manufactured for IBM by blankety blank, which does happen. I mean, you could probably make an entire video or even a small book on all of the different manufacturing codes and stickers, and it's a real deep dive, that. So, speaking about the hard disk drive, this has been factory restored. So it has the official IBM Recovery CD image on it. I grabbed that from archive.org, which if you're restoring old machines like this, and they do have recovery CDs, sometimes you get lucky and you can find them on there. And I did get lucky and I did find it on there. Now, the Internet Archive has been in the news a lot lately because of some copyright issues with publishers and things like that, and I can definitely understand the complexities. One of the things that they do have up there that they've gotten the green light for is actually the first few Unreal games. Epic Mega Games, which made the original Unreal and Unreal Tournament, kind of came out and said, yeah, we don't really care that they're up there, go to town. And that's really cool, because in my previous video on the A20 series, I played Unreal Tournament on it, and I've loaded Unreal onto this one. Because, you know, I want something that'll test that graphics card just a little bit, but not kill it. And that's actually easier said than done with mobile Pentium 4s and ATI Radeon mobility cards. So, we're just going to boot this thing up. Now, these old screens were not very bright. And the nostalgia hits you. The other thing that you will notice is that this is running the time zone wallpaper. And this is in real time telling you all the different time zones. The gradient here tells you where it's day, where it's night. Really, really slick piece of kit. And again, if you want to know the story behind this, I'll leave a video over here for where you can learn all about how this came to be and why it was a very, very popular feature, understandably, at the time. And we can see that's as high as the brightness is going to go on this thing. And obviously no battery. There's a few other things on the system tray here that are from the factory image, like the ThinkPad configuration utility. And this was really neat because it walked you through pretty much how to use the computer, what things were actually installed and running, what things might have been absent, that sort of thing. So, for example, according to this, I do have an infrared port on this. So I can confirm that, even though I wasn't sure. It's there and it's working. And won't be spoiling too much, but there's going to be an upcoming video where that is going to be a very essential piece of equipment. But we're not here for that today. As we finish things up, we are going to launch some Unreal Gold. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that quick look at this machine. If you have any questions or stories about your use of one of these, make sure that you're leaving them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.